This episode of On the Record is brought to you by Cummins. I'm Executive Editor Kim Schmidt. Welcome to On the Record. Here's an update on what's currently impacting the ag equipment industry. Ag Equipment Intelligence's latest dealer sentiments report shows that while dealers' inventory levels are still too low, they are improving. A net 69% of dealers report their new equipment inventories are too low. That's a 13-point improvement from the 82% of dealers who said their inventories were too low the month prior. On the used equipment side of things, a net 51% of dealers reported their used equipment inventories were too low versus a net 64% who said inventories were too low the month before. Used combine inventories are in better shape than used high-horsepower tractor inventories, though. A net 36% of dealers reported their used combine inventories were too low, compared to a net 79% who said their used high-horsepower tractor inventories were too low. This week's dealers on the move are Hudson Inc. and Verdant. Kentucky-based John Deere dealer Hudson Inc. announced another Michigan acquisition. The dealership acquired Gamble's in Alpena, Michigan. Hudson has 30 locations across Kentucky and Michigan. The Brandt Group of companies has reached an agreement to acquire the assets of AgroQuip NZ Ltd. The acquisition combines the strong local presence of AgroQuip with Brandt's existing locations across the North Island of New Zealand to create a network of John Deere dealer locations that runs from Cape Regina to Wellington. Now here's Noah Newman with the latest from the Technology Corner.
Thank you, Kim. Verdant Robotics, big news this week. They announced the closing of a $46.5 million Series A funding round. That is one of the largest investments in ag robotics to date. Now, Verdant co-founder Curtis Garner says the funding will enable the company to scale its fleet, build more machines, and cover more acres. Verdant's robot can simultaneously weed, fertilize, and treat plants for pests and disease with its sub-millimeter accurate spraying technology. Right now, the company commercially services a wide variety of specialty crops, including carrots, onions, garlic, and leafy greens. But with this new investment, Garner says it's only a matter of time until they expand into other crops like corn and soybeans.
We're talking to customers now on corn and soy. Our technology is broadly applicable to any crop. We just have to take the time to learn the crop, find what agronomic actions that we should go after that are valuable for the farmer, and then work hand in hand, getting our boots dirty and our rubbing shoulders with the farmer agronomist to figure out what the necessary actions that they want to take on the crop is. So that'll likely be a few years to really flesh that out and develop something that's going to work extremely well and be commercially viable in broadacre row crop.
More machines equals more crops, as Garner puts it. He says they can now service a 50-acre grower just as well as they can service a 5,000-acre grower, helping them use up to 95% less materials on their farm. In the Technology Corner, I'm Noah Newman. Back to you, Kim.
Thanks, Noah. Case IH dealer Titan Machinery announced its third quarter earnings for fiscal year 2023 on November 30th. Revenue for the quarter came in at $668.8 million, up 47% from $456 million in the same period last year. This was the third consecutive quarter of record results for Titan. Commenting on the results, Mig Dobre, senior research analyst with Baird, says it was a very strong quarter, in fact the strongest ever, as good overall execution evident in the ability to secure OEM shipments in a still tight supply environment, coupled with record high used equipment prices, which drove record high equipment gross margin. Equipment sales for the quarter were $509 million versus about $330 million for the third quarter of 2022. Part sales were up 35% to $108.7 million during the quarter. Service revenue grew as well during the quarter, but to a lesser degree, up 22% to $39 million. Ag segment revenues for the third quarter of 2023 were $493.3 million, up 75% year over year. According to Titan, the sales increase was positively impacted by organic growth as well as the acquisitions of Jaycox Implement in December 2021, Marks Machinery in April 2022, and Heartland Ag Systems in August 2022. Floor plan and other interest expenses was $1.8 million in the third quarter of fiscal 2023, compared to $1.3 million for the same period last year. According to a November 8th report from Farm Credit Canada, Canadian combine inventories are forecast to remain tight into the end of 2024. The firm is forecasting combine inventories to remain under pressure while four-wheel drive tractor inventories are forecast to recover slowly over the next 2 years. According to the report, inventory levels are expected to remain tight through 2024 as producer demand remains strong for farm equipment and manufacturers catch up on pre-orders. Farm Credit Canada reports new equipment inventory levels have trended below the 5-year average. Tractor inventories are down 42% and combines are down 47%. Strong demand for farm equipment for the remainder of 2022 is expected to reduce inventory levels further and support higher prices, the report says. According to the lender, the good news is that the equipment manufacturers are expected to adjust their production upward due to the changing economic environments as North American equipment dealers begin to rebuild their inventories. Farm Credit Canada expects farm equipment dealers to remain 100% sold on new equipment. However, individual dealer revenue remains uncertain and tied to deliveries and allocations from manufacturers. Overall, dealer sale revenue will come down to the number of trades that materialize once new equipment arrives. Both domestically manufactured and imported equipment for the Canadian market are forecast to increase in price heading into 2023 due to inflation and a depreciating Canadian dollar. Farm Credit Canada is forecasting the Canadian dollar to average $0.72 through 2023. This week's Data Point is brought to you by Ag Equipment Intelligence's 2023 Executive Briefing. According to the USDA ERS, farm production expenses are forecast to increase by 6% in 2022 compared to last year. This follows a 12% increase in farm production expenses in 2021 from 2020. As always, we welcome your feedback. You can send comments and story suggestions to kschmidt@lessitermedia.com. Until next time, thanks for joining us.